Okay, hello. For everyone who knows me, Sam, Sabrina, no one else. Oh, and yeah, so it's the worst kept secret of our class that I already have a PhD in coming here. And so I thought, rather than just sharing my current research with Dr. Yao, it's kind of in the troubleshooting stage. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that process and maybe why you want to do it. So my degree was done at Carnegie Mellon, finished in 2014, and this was my delightful PI, Manoj Kuzumiru, and towards the end of my PhD, he was telling me what you need to do is just think about what you're passionate about. I think he was expecting me to choose either developing microscopy techniques or cellular neuroscience. I decided it was parrots, so that's a lot of why I'm here. But a lot of people have misconceptions about doing a PhD, or just really basic questions are out there floating around and you don't know who to ask. First and foremost, go ask your professors. Most of them here have PhDs or friends who have them, so they're a brilliant resource, and it's going to be in a field more directly related to your interests than what mine was. But I thought I would just try to hit highlights on the basic questions people tend to worry about. So for the very beginning, and perhaps the biggest difference, the PhD and a doctorate of veterinary medicine, you shouldn't be paying tuition. This is not always true if you're in an arts field, or maybe in some other countries, but in the United States and Canada, in Europe, the PhD is paid for by the lab or department that you're working under. And in fact, you usually get a stipend. So stipend is a small annual salary. You're not going to be rolling in dough, and it's going to vary a lot, both with the school, the field of research, and even the city that you're in. For example, I probably got about 5,000 more per year living in the same city as some of my friends who are at a smaller university doing a math PhD versus my biomedical sciences PhD. So that is something to look into, never be afraid to ask. And then the second part, getting a PhD is very, very different from getting a DVM or if you were doing a master's by coursework. This is most similar to a master's by research. So you're going to apply to the university. There's two variants. You can either be applying to a department on a whole, where you would just put in your application and what you're going to work on gets sorted after you've been accepted, or there's still a few schools out there where you would apply to work in a particular lab. So that would mean being really proactive, going out and finding faculty you're interested in working with, and directly contacting them to say, hello, would you have positions open for students before you proceed with the application process. Once you're in, if you went into the more common departmental application, you're going to have to choose a PI. That's your primary investigator. At some universities, you'll have to do this within the first month or two of when you're there. Typically, there'll be a little faculty parade where they'll all talk about, okay, this is the project that I have open, these are these things that I work on, here's something that I want to do, and you'll go talk to them. But a lot of schools are moving to where you'll do a very short project. They'll call it a rotation project. It'll last 1 to 6 months, and you get to kind of try on the lab, see if you actually enjoy the day-to-day work of it, as well as how do you work with that individual PI. Their modes of training you and the level of involvement that they can have is going to vary a lot, and it's really perhaps the most crucial decision of a PhD is picking the right PI, someone who has the time for you if you're inexperienced with those skills, or somebody who has the money if you've got really big dreams. So now that you're settled in a lab, you've got a great PI, you've got qualifiers, and there's this weird status called ABD. That means all but dissertation. Your qualifiers are exams. You don't have courses every single semester like you would with a program such as this, or you did in undergrad. So your qualifiers are often going to come after you've just begun doing research, and this is how they check that you're on track, that you know enough to carry forward. The all but dissertation status comes after you do what's called a proposal. So you'll have some preliminary research, you'll write out where it's going, you give an oral presentation, give them a large document, and a committee of professors will say whether or not you're in good standing. And usually there's some grace period, but you can actually get excused from a program, left with a master's or less, if you were to fail that. So then years go by, you've accumulated all of your information, you've done a lot of research, now it's time to defend your thesis. This is a document that you write predominantly by yourself, probably going to be up around 100 pages, will depend on the field, but just kind of as an idea of how much work you're going to be doing. And your thesis is typically an hour-long presentation about just that research. So the research, again, as I said, little to no coursework. That will vary on your university, but this is a research degree. You got most of your necessary background information, now you're going to start making that information. The PI involvement is variable, which I already talked about, so again, find a good match. And academia is all about publish or perish. It's kind of a shame that you can't just go off and genuinely research whatever you're most interested in, but you need to be putting forward publications which interest the field at large and will help you get grants so you can keep going. So as a graduate student, you're going to be expected to be actively contributing information to the lab. Funding, mostly it's going to be secured predominantly through your PI. He's going to be, or she's going to be writing the grants that help you keep going. But there are lots of opportunities for PhD students to submit grants for their own funding, and that's a great way to start getting an idea of what it's actually like to be a faculty person in the future. There's a lot of fun. I'm going to kind of skip over it, but academic conferences are fantastic. They're like Dragon Con, but everyone's a super uber nerd, even nerdier than Dragon Con. So, yeah. And then the career impacts. One thing to really, really keep in mind, and I don't do sports, but this is the best analogy I can think of, a PhD is training you to be a manager, not the star player. I'm sure there are faculty members who might disagree with me there, but typically once you have a PhD, you're not going to be expected to be handling animals and pipetting fluids for the rest of your day. You're going to be the person out representing that research, obtaining grants, teaching courses, mentoring new students. So if you absolutely love getting dirty, you might want to consider sticking with the DVM or just getting a master's and then thinking about it later. Again, this is my own personal take, but there are many people who got into a PhD and then were surprised that their later career goals were going to be much more managerial or advisorial than actual hands-on work. So that is pretty much all I'm going to say. They're about to bust in the door. If you have more questions, come up and ask me. I've got a Ross email. My email is just my name @gmail. You can insult my thesis, and I will certainly say something back to you. And again, absolutely contact others. The professors here mostly have PhDs, and there are options that I didn't take, like doing a board certifiable residency with your PhD. It's going to be really different than just doing a pure basic science PhD. There's really good resources online to help you consider if you want to be a PhD or not. I'm actually going to be unconventional and recommend some of these wickier websites that have comics and things, because once you understand the sense of humor of a grad student, you can kind of understand what's going on in their minds. So again, hunt me down and we'll let class start.